Captain Jake Morrison floated near the main window of Watchdog 7, staring out at the endless black of space. The monitoring station sat at the very edge of Earth's solar system, far from home but close enough to keep watch. Jake had been out here for 3 years now, and most days were the same. Check the sensors, write reports, and wait for something interesting to happen. Today was different. "Captain, you need to see this," called Lisa Barnes from her communication station. Her voice carried a tone Jake had never heard before. Not worried exactly, but alert in a way that made his stomach tighten. Jake pushed off from the window and drifted over to Lisa's workstation. The young woman's fingers moved quickly across her controls, pulling up readings that made no sense. "At first glance, what am I looking at?" Jake asked. "Energy signatures, sir, big ones, coming from the direction of Centauri." Lisa's dark eyes were wide as she pointed to her screen. 12 separate sources all moving toward us at incredible speed. Ryan Cooper looked up from his tactical station across the room. The tall man with sandy hair had been quiet all morning, running routine scans like always. Now he was frowning at his own displays. "I'm seeing the same thing," Ryan said. "These aren't natural energy patterns. They're too organized, too controlled, and they're slowing down." Jake felt his heart begin to race. In 3 years of deep space monitoring, they had never detected anything like this. Space was vast and empty, filled with rocks and gas and the occasional comet. But not this. Not 12 massive energy sources moving with clear purpose toward Earth. Amy Taylor appeared from the engineering section, wiping grease from her hands with a dirty cloth. The small woman with red hair always seemed to be fixing something on the station. Her technical skills kept Watchdog 7 running smoothly, but right now her face showed the same confusion everyone else felt. "The power readings are off the charts," Amy said. "Whatever those things are, they're huge. Each one is putting out enough energy to power a city." Jake moved to the main communication panel and opened a channel to Earth. The signal would take hours to reach home, but Earth Defense Command needed to know about this immediately. "This is Captain Morrison at Watchdog 7 calling Admiral Stone. We have detected 12 unknown objects approaching the solar system. Request immediate instructions." While they waited for a response, the crew continued to monitor the approaching signals. The objects were still millions of miles away, but they were definitely slowing down. Whatever they were not just passing through. They were coming to visit. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I'm picking up transmissions from the objects. They're trying to communicate." Jake's blood went cold. Transmissions meant intelligence. Intelligence meant these were not natural phenomena or human ships. After decades of searching for signs of alien life, it looked like alien life had found Earth instead. "Put it on speakers," he ordered. The bridge filled with static at first, then strange sounds that might have been voices. The words, when they finally came, were broken and hard to understand, but they were definitely English. "Surrender world. Empire claims. Resistance futile." The 4 crew members stared at each other in stunned silence. The message repeated several times, each time clearer than the last, as if whoever was speaking was getting better at forming human words. "Surrender world. Empire claims. Resistance futile." Jake's training kicked in. He had prepared for many scenarios during his military career, but first contact with hostile aliens had always seemed like science fiction. Now it was happening, and Earth had less than no time to prepare. "Amy, I need you to boost our sensors to maximum power. I want to know everything about those ships. Size, weapons, capabilities, everything." "Already on it," Amy replied, her fingers flying over her controls. "Based on energy output and mass readings, each ship is roughly the size of a small city. They're using some kind of propulsion system I've never seen before." Ryan was running tactical analyses on his station. "Their formation suggests military organization. They're approaching in a standard conquest pattern, if Earth military doctrine is any guide." "How would you know Earth military doctrine applies to aliens?" Lisa asked. "Because conquest is conquest," Ryan answered grimly. "Some things are universal." Jake opened another channel to Earth, this time marking it as Priority 1 emergency. "Admiral Stone, this is Morrison at Watchdog 7. We have confirmed alien contact. Repeat, we have confirmed alien contact. 12 large vessels approaching Earth with hostile intent. They are demanding surrender. Hours passed before Earth's response came back. Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the speakers. Tense, but controlled. Morrison, maintain observation and continue reporting. Do not repeat, do not attempt any contact or engagement. Help is coming. Help is coming. Jake wondered what kind of help could possibly matter against 12 city-sized alien warships. Earth's space fleet was small and mostly designed for asteroid, mining and research missions. The few military vessels they had were built to fight other humans, not advanced alien technology. As the alien fleet drew closer, their ships became visible on the station's long-range cameras. The vessels were unlike anything human engineers had ever imagined. They were smooth and curved, almost organic-looking, but clearly artificial. Strange lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that suggested complex internal systems. "They're beautiful," Amy whispered, staring at the images. "They're terrifying," Ryan corrected. Jake had to agree with Ryan. The ships were impressive, but they represented something Earth was not prepared to face. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was not the peaceful first contact everyone had hoped for. The alien message continued to broadcast on multiple frequencies, always the same words: surrender world, empire claims, resistance futile. But Jake noticed something else in the transmissions. The aliens spoke English, but it was clearly learned from human broadcasts. They had been listening to Earth's radio and television signals, studying humanity from a distance before making their move. That meant they thought they knew what humans were capable of. The question was whether they were right. Fleet Commander Zerath stood before the massive viewing screen of his flagship, studying the blue and green world that hung in space before him. The third planet from this system's star looked exactly as his intelligence reports had described, mostly water, with large landmasses covered in the chaotic sprawl of primitive settlements. Behind him, Sub-Commander Zelak reviewed the final assessment reports on their target species. The data had been gathered over many cycles of careful observation, intercepting the electromagnetic noise this species constantly broadcast into space. "The humans appear to be as divided as our initial studies suggested," Zelak reported in their musical language. "They organize themselves into competing tribes scattered across their world. Their broadcasts show constant internal conflict and primitive thinking patterns." Zerath nodded with satisfaction. This would be conquest number 48 for the Zephyrian Empire, and it looked to be one of the easiest yet. The humans seemed to spend most of their energy fighting among themselves and creating elaborate fictional scenarios about violence and conflict. Clearly, they were a species that preferred fantasy to reality. "What of their military capabilities?" Zerath asked. "Primitive chemical rockets and basic atomic weapons," Zelak replied. "They have barely achieved travel to their own moon. Their largest weapons could damage a single ship, but they lack the coordination to mount any significant resistance." Zerath had seen this pattern before on dozens of worlds. Species that broadcast their thoughts and activities openly were always the easiest to conquer. They had no concept of operational security or strategic thinking. The Zephyrian Empire had built its success on patience and careful observation, studying target worlds for decades before moving in for easy victories. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Marcus Webb sat in a secure conference room deep beneath the White House. Around the table were faces known only to a select few, men and women who officially did not exist in any government database. General Patricia Hayes commanded military forces that appeared on no public records. Her units had been training in secret for over 50 years, preparing for exactly this scenario. Director Amanda Cross ran research facilities hidden across the globe, developing technologies that the public would not see for decades, if ever. "Protocol Omega is now active," President Webb announced to the assembled group. "All hidden installations are coming online. How long until we're at full readiness?" General Hayes consulted her tablet. "Ground-based systems will be ready in 18 hours. The lunar installations need another 6 hours beyond that. The asteroid belt platforms are already in position." "Asteroid belt platforms?" asked Dr. Helen Parker, the government's top expert in alien languages. She had been brought in just hours ago and was still catching up on secrets that had been kept for decades. Mining operations, Director Cross explained with a slight smile. Or so the public believes. In reality, we've been building fortified weapons platforms disguised as mining stations. If anyone ever came looking for trouble, they would find it. Dr. Parker stared in amazement. How long has the government been preparing for this? Since we started broadcasting radio signals into space, President Webb replied. The moment we announced our presence to the universe, smart people began asking what we would do if someone unfriendly heard us. The Cold War taught us that preparation prevents disaster. Back on Watchdog 7, Captain Morrison and his crew continued monitoring the alien fleet. The ships had settled into a standard formation around Earth, clearly preparing for their next move. Amy Taylor had been working around the clock, trying to understand the alien technology from their energy signatures and transmission patterns. I think I've figured out how their communication system works, Amy announced tiredly. She had not slept in 36 hours, but her excitement kept her going. They use a centralized network. Everything goes through their command ship first, then gets distributed to the rest of the fleet. Ryan Cooper looked up from his tactical analysis. That's a significant weakness. If something happened to their command ship, the rest of the fleet would lose coordination. Lisa Barnes had been monitoring alien communications constantly, slowly learning to pick out patterns in their language. They keep referring to us as noisemakers in their transmissions. I think they see humans as a species that talks too much but doesn't think strategically. Captain Morrison found this information very interesting. The aliens had been listening to human broadcasts for decades, but they had completely misunderstood what they were hearing. Earth's constant stream of radio and television signals was not random noise or primitive entertainment. It was a planet-wide conversation, a species sharing ideas and stories and possibilities. On the Zephyrian flagship, Sub-Commander Zelak was reviewing human entertainment broadcasts, trying to understand this strange species better. The humans seemed obsessed with stories about conflict and warfare, but the scenarios were clearly fictional. No real species would voluntarily expose themselves to such constant thoughts of violence and strategy. Look at this, Zelak showed Zarath a collection of human movies about alien invasions. They actually create entertainment about being conquered by superior species. They seem to enjoy imagining their own defeat. Zarath found this fascinating. Most species they encountered became terrified when the Empire arrived, but humans appeared to have been thinking about this possibility for a long time, almost as if they were looking forward to it. Perhaps they will surrender without resistance, Zarath mused. They have already imagined this scenario many times. What the Zephyrian commander did not understand was that humans had not been imagining defeat. They had been imagining every possible way to fight back. Every science fiction movie, every war game, every tactical simulation was humanity's way of preparing for threats they hoped would never come. On Earth, hidden facilities across the globe hummed with activity. Weapons systems that officially did not exist powered up for the first time in decades. Scientists and soldiers who had spent their careers preparing for theoretical scenarios suddenly found their life's work becoming terrifyingly real. The alien fleet transmitted their ultimatum. To Earth, 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face the consequences. The message was broadcast on every frequency, impossible to ignore. But what the aliens did not know was that Earth had been expecting this message for over 50 years. Deep in classified bunkers, military planners who had spent decades preparing for first contact finally opened their sealed orders. The countdown had begun, but not the one the aliens expected. Exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum, the Zephyrian fleet began their attack on Earth. Fleet Commander Zarath watched from his command bridge as his ships moved into position above the planet's major population centers. The attack would be swift and precise, designed to break human resistance without destroying valuable infrastructure. Begin pacification bombardment, Zarath ordered calmly. Target their largest cities and obvious military installations. Use minimum force necessary to ensure surrender. Blue beams of energy lanced down from the alien ships, striking carefully selected targets across Earth's surface. New York's financial district was hit first, followed by military bases in Virginia and Colorado. London, Tokyo, and Moscow received similar treatment. The weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy, creating impressive explosions that would terrify the population without causing massive casualties. Xerath expected immediate communication from human leadership, begging for mercy and offering surrender. Instead, his communication officer reported something unexpected. "Commander, we are receiving no surrender signals from the planet's surface. In fact, we are detecting increased energy readings from multiple locations." This puzzled Xerath. Most species surrendered within minutes of witnessing Zephyrian firepower. The humans should be panicking, not powering up additional systems. On the moon's hidden dark side, Commander Sarah Mitchell sat in a bunker that officially did not exist. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at stations controlling weapons that had been built in secret over decades. The lunar defense grid had been disguised as research stations and mining operations, but now it revealed its true purpose. "All lunar platforms report ready," announced her weapons officer. "We have clear targeting solutions on all 12 enemy vessels." Sarah opened a secure channel to Earth. "Command, this is Lunar Defense. We are in position and awaiting orders." The response came immediately from President Webb himself. "Execute Phase 1. Show them what Earth really thinks about their ultimatum." Colonel Danny Walsh floated in the command center of Mining Station Ceres, which was not actually a mining station at all. Along with 11 other civilian installations scattered throughout the asteroid belt, Ceres was a heavily armed fortress disguised as an industrial facility. For 30 years, these stations had pretended to mine asteroids while secretly building the most powerful weapons humanity had ever created. "All stations report weapons charged and ready," Danny announced to his crew. "Time to drop the disguise." The fake mining equipment on Ceres folded away to reveal massive particle cannons and kinetic bombardment systems. Across the asteroid belt, 11 other stations did the same, transforming from innocent mining operations into weapons platforms capable of destroying entire fleets. Back on Watchdog 7, Captain Morrison and his crew watched in amazement as Earth's true defensive capabilities revealed themselves. Amy Taylor had been working frantically to understand the alien technology, and she had made a breakthrough that would change everything. "Captain, I've been analyzing their communication patterns," Amy said excitedly. "Their entire fleet operates on a centralized command system. Every ship has to receive orders from the flagship before acting. If we could disrupt that connection..." Ryan Cooper was already running tactical calculations. "The command ship is the largest one, positioned in the center of their formation, but it's also the most heavily defended." Lisa Barnes looked up from her station with a grin. "Not necessarily. I've been working on something that might interest you. Remember how they learned English from our broadcasts? Well, they've been using our own communication protocols to talk to each other, and we invented computer viruses." Captain Morrison stared at her. "You mean you can hack their systems?" "I mean, I already have," Lisa replied proudly. "I've been inside their network for the past 6 hours learning how it works. When you're ready, I can introduce them to some very unfriendly software." The Zephyrian attack continued for exactly 17 minutes before Earth responded. The response was not a surrender. It was not a plea for mercy. It was the most devastating counterattack in galactic history. The lunar defense grid fired first. Dozens of kinetic projectiles launched from hidden installations, accelerating to incredible speeds before striking the Zephyrian ships. The aliens had not expected resistance from Earth's moon, and their shields were positioned to defend against attacks from the planet below. 3 Zephyrian ships took critical damage in the first volley, their hulls cracked open by projectiles, moving at significant fractions of light speed. Emergency alarms sounded across the alien fleet as they realized they had seriously underestimated their target. Before the aliens could reposition their defenses, the asteroid belt weapons platforms opened fire. Particle beams and plasma cannons that had been disguised as mining equipment for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. The primitive humans had built weapons throughout their solar system while pretending to be interested only in resource. Extraction. Impossible, Zerath breathed as he watched two more of his ships explode under the unexpected assault. Intelligence reported no significant military capabilities beyond their planet. Sub-Commander Zalak was frantically trying to coordinate defensive maneuvers, but something was wrong with their communication system. Orders were being corrupted, navigation data was scrambled, and ships were receiving contradictory instructions. On Watchdog 7, Lisa Barnes was having the time of her life. The computer viruses she had created were spreading through the Zephyrian network like wildfire, turning their own communication system against them. What the aliens had thought was their greatest strength, centralized coordination, had become their fatal weakness. Their command ship is trying to regain control, Lisa reported. But every time they send new orders, my viruses corrupt the data. They can't coordinate their defense. Amy Taylor had been monitoring alien energy signatures and made another crucial discovery. Captain, their shield systems all operate on the same frequency. If we can overload that frequency, Ryan Cooper was already targeting the alien command ship with every weapon Watchdog 7 possessed. The monitoring station had been built with defensive capabilities that were now being put to their first real test. The battle that the Zephyrian Empire expected to last minutes was turning into a disaster that would last hours. Earth had not panicked under attack. Instead, humanity had revealed that they had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades, turning every aspect of their solar system into a weapon, and the aliens were just beginning to understand what they had awakened. Fleet Commander Zerath gripped the railing of his command bridge as another explosion rocked his flagship. The impossible was happening. The primitive humans were not only fighting back, they were winning. Half of his fleet was already destroyed, or disabled, and the survivors were scattered and confused by the computer viruses corrupting their communications. How is this possible? Zerath demanded of his tactical officer. Our intelligence showed no advanced weapons, no coordinated military forces. Sub-Commander Zalak struggled to make sense of the battle reports flooding in from the remaining ships. Commander, their weapons are using principles we have never encountered. Some appear to be based on technologies we thought were purely theoretical. On Earth, deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Martin Black watched the battle through satellite feeds while coordinating the deployment of humanity's most secret weapons. The Titan Research Facility had been developing advanced military technology for 30 years, hidden from the public, and funded through programs that officially did not exist. Deploy the gravity disruptors, Dr. Black ordered his team. Target the alien ships that are still trying to maintain formation. Within minutes, several Zephyrian vessels found themselves caught in artificial gravity fields that twisted their hulls like aluminum cans. The aliens had never encountered weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of physics itself. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, were useless against attacks that altered space-time around their ships. Lieutenant Commander Grace Taylor, Amy's younger sister, led a boarding party toward the damaged Zephyrian command ship. Her team wore powered armor that had been developed in secret facilities, equipped with weapons reverse-engineered from decades of studying alien transmissions. Remember, we need their command codes intact, Grace told her team as their stealth shuttle approached the alien flagship. Intelligence wants to know how their empire operates. The boarding operation succeeded because the Zephyrians had never planned for close combat inside their own ships. Their military doctrine assumed orbital bombardment would handle all resistance. They were completely unprepared for humans in advanced armor moving through their corridors with weapons specifically designed to work in their ship's environment. Grace's team reached the command center within 20 minutes, moving past alien crew members who seemed confused and disorganized. Without their centralized communication system working properly, the individual aliens appeared to have trouble making independent decisions. Surrender now and your crew will be treated according to our laws of war, Grace announced to Fleet Commander Zerath in his own language. Dr. Helen Parker had provided the boarding teams with translation devices based on her analysis of intercepted communications. Zerath stared at the human soldier in shock. Not only were the humans winning, they were speaking perfect Zephyrian and offering him prisoner protections. His species had conquered 47 worlds, and no one had ever offered to treat Zephyrian prisoners humanely. On Watchdog 7, Amy, Taylor was having breakthrough after breakthrough as she analyzed captured alien technology. What she discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about their attackers. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy called excitedly. "I've been analyzing their computer systems, and the Zephyrians are not as advanced as they appear. Most of their technology is stolen from other species they conquered." Captain Morrison studied Amy's findings with growing amazement. "You mean they're using other people's inventions?" "Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. Some of the technology they're using is actually based on theoretical work published by human scientists 20 years ago. We developed the theories, they stole the applications." Ryan Cooper looked up from his tactical station with a grim smile. "That explains why Lisa's computer viruses worked so well. They were using communication protocols based on our own designs." The full scope of human preparation was becoming clear as the battle continued. Every piece of seemingly innocent scientific research had been designed with potential military applications in mind. Every space exploration mission had included hidden objectives. Every international cooperation project had strengthened Earth's defensive capabilities. Dr. Parker's linguistic team had achieved something remarkable during the battle. By analyzing thousands of intercepted communications, they had not only learned the Zephyrian language but cracked the military codes of their entire empire. "We now have access to their fleet coordination protocols," Dr. Parker announced to President Webb from her secure facility. "I can broadcast false orders to any Zephyrian ship in the galaxy." President Webb realized the implications immediately. "You mean we can turn their own empire against itself?" "More than that. We now know the locations of their colonies, their trade routes, their military deployments. The Zephyrians have been broadcasting this information in coded transmissions for decades, never imagining that someone might be listening and learning." The battle was nearly over. Of the 12 ships that had arrived to conquer Earth, only 3 remained functional. The Zephyrian Empire's 48th conquest had become their first complete defeat. But the most shocking revelation came when Grace Taylor's boarding team accessed the Zephyrian ship's historical records. What they found would change humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy forever. "Captain Morrison, you need to hear this." Grace's voice came over the communication system. "According to their records, the Zephyrian Empire has never encountered significant resistance before. Every species they attacked either surrendered immediately or was destroyed quickly. We're the first to fight back successfully." Amy Taylor made the final connection that explained everything. The aliens thought our entertainment broadcasts were evidence of primitive thinking, but they were actually training materials. Every war movie, every science fiction story, every video game about fighting aliens was humanity preparing for this exact situation. Captain Morrison looked out at the stars and smiled. Earth's children had spent decades imagining every possible threat and developing countermeasures for scenarios that seemed purely fictional. The constant stream of stories about alien invasions had not been entertainment. It had been the largest military planning exercise in galactic history. The Zephyrian Empire had picked a fight with a species that had been preparing for war since before the Empire knew they existed, and now humanity was about to return the favor. The last functional Zephyrian ship hung dead in space, its crew either captured or surrendered. What the Empire had expected to be a routine conquest lasting hours had become a complete disaster lasting 2 days. Fleet Commander Zerath now sat in chains aboard his own flagship, which was under human control. Admiral Richard Stone, newly promoted after the successful defense of Earth, stood across from the alien commander in what had once been the ship's main conference room. Between them sat a translation device that Dr. Helen Parker's team had perfected during the battle. "Your empire made a mistake," Admiral Stone said calmly. "You attacked us believing we were weak because we broadcast our thoughts to the stars. You confused openness with vulnerability." Zerath stared at the human admiral with something approaching respect. In all his years of conquest, he had never been defeated so completely. The humans had not just won, they had made it look easy. "How long have you been preparing for this?" Zerath asked. "Since we first sent radio signals into space," Stone replied. "The moment we announced our presence to the universe, we began asking ourselves what we would do if someone dangerous hurt us. We had our answer ready." Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship. The converted Zephyrian command ship had been renamed the Defiance, and it would serve as the flagship of Earth's first interstellar fleet. Around him, human technicians worked alongside cooperative Zephyrian prisoners to understand the advanced technology. "Amy, how long until we understand their faster-than-light systems?" Morrison asked. Amy Taylor looked up from a complex alien control panel, her face bright with excitement. "I think I've got it figured out, sir. Their jump drive technology is actually simpler than I expected. With a few modifications, we should be able to improve on their design significantly." Grace Taylor's boarding teams had secured all the Zephyrian ships that remained intact. More importantly, they had captured complete records of the Empire's military operations, including detailed maps of their territory and information about the other species they had conquered. "Admiral, you need to see this," Grace reported from the alien data center. "According to their records, the Zephyrian Empire controls 47 worlds, but most of those species are still alive. They're being used as slave labor and resource providers." Morrison felt his jaw tighten. The aliens had not just attacked Earth, they had been enslaving other species for decades. That changed everything about humanity's response. On Earth, President Webb convened an emergency meeting of world leaders and military commanders. The successful defense had proven that humanity could protect itself, but the captured alien records revealed a much larger problem. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Webb announced, "we now know that Earth was not the Zephyrians' first target. They have enslaved dozens of other intelligent species across this region of the galaxy. The question before us is simple. What do we do about it?" General Patricia Hayes had been studying the alien military data for hours. "Their empire is actually quite vulnerable, Mr. President. They depend entirely on centralized control and overwhelming technological superiority. But we've proven that their technology can be countered, and we now have access to all their command codes." Director Amanda Cross had even more interesting news. "Our analysis shows that most of the species they conquered never fought back effectively. They surrendered quickly when faced with superior technology, but we've demonstrated that the Zephyrians can be defeated." Dr. Parker had been working around the clock to establish communication with the enslaved worlds. "I've managed to contact several of the conquered species using captured Zephyrian communication equipment. They're asking if the rumors about Earth's victory are true. The last Zephyrian ship in the solar system was a communications vessel that had stayed far from the battle, waiting to report the Empire's easy victory to their home worlds. Instead, it had witnessed the complete destruction of the invasion." Fleet Admiral Morrison opened a channel to the communication ship from the bridge of the Defiance. When the alien captain appeared on the screen, Morrison could see fear in the creature's large eyes. "I am Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet," he began. "You will carry a message back to your empire." The alien captain nodded quickly, clearly eager to avoid the fate of the invasion fleet. "Tell your leaders that Earth sends its regards and its first warning. You attacked our world believing we were weak because we shared our thoughts and dreams with the universe. You mistook our creativity for chaos and our openness for vulnerability. You were wrong." Morrison gestured to displays showing the destroyed Zephyrian fleet. "Your ships, your weapons, your tactics, all have been analyzed and countered. We now possess your technology, your military codes, and detailed information about your empire's operations." The alien captain seemed to shrink in his command chair as Morrison continued. "But more importantly, we know about the other species you have enslaved. We know about the worlds you have conquered and the people you have oppressed. This ends now." Dr. Parker had prepared the next part of the message, and Morrison delivered it with cold precision. "We are providing you with complete tactical analyses of how we defeated your fleet, detailed specifications of our weapons, and proof that your invincible empire can be stopped. Share this information with every species you have conquered." The implications were clear. Humanity was not just defeating the Zephyrian Empire, they were giving every enslaved species the tools to free themselves. "Your empire has 48 hours to begin withdrawing from all conquered worlds," Morrison continued. Any future aggression against Earth or our allies will be met with the full military power of a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of warfare. Morrison paused to let that sink in before delivering the final message. This was humanity being polite. You attacked us during our first contact, so we responded defensively. If you force us to take offensive action, you will discover that our entertainment broadcasts only showed you a tiny fraction of what humans are capable of when we stop playing games. The communication ended, and the alien ship immediately jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's message to the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Morrison looked out at the stars and smiled. Earth's children were no longer alone in the universe. They had allies to free, enemies to defeat, and a galaxy to explore. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same.